Tonight on Global News Network, we'll be focusing on news stories including New Jersey, United States, sports, world weather, and world issues. I'm Grace Catagno. On January 3rd in Fort Lauderdale, 5 children heading to Disney World were killed in an intense car crash on Interstate 75 in northern Florida. The children were traveling in a van in which another vehicle collided into other lanes across the guardrail and into another large truck and the church van. Eventually, both vehicles caught on fire and 50 gallons of diesel spilled, leading to the fire damaging certain areas of the road. The accident resulted in 5 deaths and a minimum of 8 injuries. That's all for today. Stay tuned for New Jersey stories. Welcome back to Global News Network. Another story was released on January 8th. A school van driver was accused of video chatting on her phone while taking a student home. There's footage taken by Michelle Urban's son, who was the only passenger present in the vehicle. The driver was clearly seen indulging in the phone call. Although the phone was not directly held in her hand, it was still mounted on the windshield. This has brought concern to many parents about sending their children on public transportation. The driver no longer does the school route, but her employment status is on the line, benefiting the safety of the passengers in the vehicle. That concludes New Jersey news for today. Stay tuned for Caroline on more about the United States news.
This is Caroline O'Connor with Global News Network. Today, we will be covering the November fires in California. 300 people have been forced to evacuate, and 88 people lost their lives. This fire was a raging fire, and anyone in its path was destroyed. Hi, this is Caroline O'Connor from Global News Network. Locally, in Ringwood, New Jersey, we have a trespassing case. Trespassers were too eager to get on the ice skating rink this winter and resulted in the whole ice skating rink being torn up. This was a terrible thing for the local residents, not being able to ice skate this winter.
Nate Mansfield for the Global News Network, and today in sports we got Kyler Murray declaring for the 2019 NFL Draft and Cliff Kingsbury hired as Arizona Cardinals' next head coach. Stay tuned. We got Kyler Murray declaring for the 2019 NFL Draft. Now, this was a surprise to many considering that Murray was taken with the 9th overall pick in the 2018 MLB draft by the Oakland A's. Murray was given a $4.6 million signing bonus when he signed that contract with the A's. Now, let's look back at some of Kyler Murray's stats from this past year. He had a 69% completion percentage, threw for over 4,300 yards and 42 touchdowns. He only had 7 picks. Now, these are outstanding numbers for a 5'10 quarterback. So I think that's why Murray decided to take his talents to the NFL over the MLB. Higher salary, higher upside. I think it's a great decision by Murray in the long run. Football Hall of Famer Deion Sanders, who played in both the NFL and MLB during his career, knows what he would do if he were Kyler Murray. Deion said, "If I were in his shoes, I'm picking up the baseball bat and I'm not looking back." That's a crazy statement by Deion considering he's a Hall of Fame corner in the NFL. One of the all-time greats. Big news in the NFL last week. The Arizona Cardinals have found their next head coach. That man is Cliff Kingsbury now. Kingsbury was earlier in the year Texas Tech's head coach, was then fired, then hired by USC as the offensive coordinator, and now he's the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. Now his primary task in Arizona will be to develop their top 10 pick from last year, Josh Rosen. Now, Rosen this year, not a great rookie year. In 14 games, he completed 55% of his passes, threw for only 2,200 yards and 11 touchdowns, and he threw 14 picks and had a QBR of 66%. That was dead last in the NFL. He was by far the worst starting quarterback in the NFL, and they hope Kingsbury can come in, develop Rosen, teach him some things, get that franchise turned around and start winning some games in Arizona. It is worth noting that Kingsbury had difficulty winning games at Texas Tech, where he posted a 35-40 record. His teams did at least score a ton of points, at least 35 points per game in 4 of his 6 seasons. But his losing record as a college coach should be a real concern for the Cardinals. Put it this way, he couldn't win consistently with Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. How is he going to win with Josh Rosen in the NFL? I don't know. Josh Rosen is not a shell of Patrick Mahomes. He has a lot of work to do with Josh Rosen. Let's see what he can develop him into. That's all we got for sports here at Global News Network this evening. Have a good rest of your night.
Everyone, I'm Dylan McGowan here from Global News Network, and today I'm covering the deadly tsunami that hit western Indonesia. At least 430 people were killed Saturday when the tsunami sparked by landslides from an erupting volcano swept through the Sunda Strait, leaving about 1,500 injured and almost 22,000 displaced in villages on the Java and Sumatra coast. To some, this isn't a surprise because back in September, more than 2,000 people were killed after tsunami and earthquake struck western Sulawesi, with many complaining they were caught unaware. Also, in July and August, a series of earthquakes hit the northern Lombok region, sparking landslides and collapsing buildings that left more than 400 people dead. Bapu Sawarna, a 49-year-old survivor, told us he first thought the sound was coming from a nearby music concert. Here's what he had to say. "The sound grew, and I even heard crashing sounds," he said. "Seconds later, I saw people running from the tsunami wave shouting, 'Tsunami, waves, waves.' It only took seconds, not minutes, after hearing the thunder sounds, and then the waves hit us." From the bottom of my heart, I sincerely request that the government set up an early warning system. Now, on to world news. The California fires were one of the most destructive wildfires in American history. The Camp Fire started in Butte County in the northern part of the state and killed 88 people, destroyed nearly 20,000 buildings, and caused up to $10 billion in damages. It took over 1,000 firefighters, 70 fire engines, and even took 2 helicopters to get under control. The Woolsey Fire chased the residents from one of the wealthiest places in California, which is near Malibu. The Camp Fire hit more of a low-income retirement community in Paradise. Now some are wondering even if it's going to be rebuilt and if the government cares enough to help rebuild it. President Trump showed his support for the Camp Fires by tweeting out, "There is no reason for these massive, deadly, and costly forest fires in California except that forecast management is so poor. Billions of dollars are given each year with so many lives lost, all because of gross mismanagement of the forests. Remedy now or no more federal payments." This shows Donald Trump is putting 100% focus and care into the Camp Fire situation and shows his support for those affected and will help repay.
Good evening. On October 2nd, 2018, Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi disappeared in Saudi consulate in Turkey. Khashoggi was a Saudi journalist, author, and former general manager and editor-in-chief of Al Arab News Channel. He also served as editor for the Saudi newspaper Al Watan, turning it into a platform for Saudi progressives. Khashoggi fled Saudi Arabia in June 2017 and went into self-imposed exile in the U.S. While he was in the U.S., he became a frequent contributor to publications like the Washington Post's Global Opinion section and continued to criticize the Saudi government from afar. He had been sharply critical of Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and the country's king Salam of Saudi Arabia. He also opposed the Saudi Arabian-led intervention in Yemen. In early October, Khashoggi was last seen entering a Saudi consulate in Turkey to obtain divorce papers, but he never returned. According to U.S. intelligence, Khashoggi was tortured and killed inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul by a 15-member team brought in from Saudi Arabia under the order of the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. One anonymous police source claimed that the dead body was cut into pieces and quietly moved out of the consulate, and that all of this was videotaped to prove the mission had been accomplished and the tape was taken out of the country.
The retail apocalypse. Store closings, the death of the mall, the complete and utter takeover of e-commerce. It's the end of shopping as we know it, right? Well, not exactly. Yes, retail has had a tough few years. There were 7,000 store closings in 2017. We saw big brands like JCPenney, Macy's, and Sears all shutter stores. The term retail apocalypse is so pervasive that it even has its own Wikipedia page. But there's another side of this story. In the same year, there were actually 3,400 store opening announcements, a 50% surge. So what's the deal? Is there a retail apocalypse or not? The answer lies somewhere in the middle. At the high and low ends of the spectrum, The industry is thriving. Low-price stores, the Old Navies of the world, have seen their revenue increase 37% over the last 5 years. And premium retailers, stores like Louis Vuitton, are faring even better. Their revenue skyrocketed 81%. Those revenue increases led to more store openings. And while the many fake news retail apocalypse headlines blame e-commerce sites like Amazon, a recent study found that 91% of all retail transactions still happen in brick-and-mortar stores. So if retail's not dying, it's actually doing well, what's going on with those stores in the middle? You can track the decline of those stores closely with the shrinking of the American middle class. Big box stores like Sears and Macy's that rely on the middle class suburban mall. And since 1975, the US built malls 4 times the rate of population growth. Over the last 10 years, most Americans have seen their discretionary funds, the money being kept for a rainy day, stall or in some cases even shrink, and income is dwindling. Those consumers have become more price sensitive, driving them to look for deals at low price stores. On the other hand, rich Americans have seen their net worth and discretionary funds increase, creating more customers for luxury retailers. Meanwhile, stores in the middle like J. Crew, they've seen customers flee in both directions. So what we are seeing is less than a retail apocalypse and more of a tale of two retails. Okay, you can laugh now.